Good afternoon to all of you. It's a very important day for us. You may not know, but our organization was founded exactly 23 years ago. I have also been in this domain of identity and access management for exactly 23 years now. And we played a major role as an organization in the US as a service provider in IAM for a long time. We did that for about 15 odd years. We implemented more than 500 identity and access management projects in the US. And finally, when we were judged as one of the top 3 solution providers from a system integration perspective in the last 3 years, Gartner gave us an advice, why don't you guys build your own product? Because you understand you have sat on the other side of the table, which very few product vendors have, and things were changing, cloud was coming in a big way, so we took the advice of Gartner very seriously, and that's how we built our product. As I would present, as we built our product, and we were ready with the product, we had a few customers all over the world. The product was stabilizing, of course, at that point in time. And 2 years after, which was in 2020, Gartner came out with a very big statement that the right architecture or the new architecture for identity and access management is to have a converged platform. And interestingly, that's what we had built. So we ended up being a company which was the only company with convergence in those days. And I'm proud to say that we are today considered as #1 deep converged IAM product in the industry. For those of you who have been our customers in the initial years, I can see some of them right here. I must say that it requires time and the cooperation from the customers to stabilize. And our customers in India, some of them are very large organizations, have helped us, and we have worked collaboratively to bring the platform to a point where it has become a platform of pride for us and we for our competitors and so on. So let me begin with, today the topic that we have chosen is not about IAM, but that everybody talks about. We are not talking technology today. We're going to talk about how do you mitigate risk through identity and access management. So I'm going to talk about, it looks like there's a lot to talk in 13, 14 minutes, but I'll do a fair job of that. We're going to talk about the situation of cybersecurity. All of us know we are at a crossroads today. Over the last 10 months, I have met about 90 CISOs all over the country. And one thing that is coming out very clearly is that for the first time, IAM has become important. We had been trying to evangelize this technology since 2000, and we didn't have very many people listening. Today, when we talk about this domain, people are listening. And that's primarily because of the compliance issues that are cropping up, the way regulatory authorities have become they're really pushing everybody hard, at least in the regulated industries, to go for compliance, which includes a very important portion of identity and access management. So, and then we are going to talk about the new concept of identity-first security, which comes from Gartner. We follow that, and going on to convergence, and then we will jump onto the topic of risk mitigation. I'll take an example, of course, because in a short time it's not possible to really talk about lots of it. This is an important point. See the role of CISOs evolving today, and it has evolved today to a point where it's become so important that I find CISOs from this end to that end. What I mean by that is there are ones who are kind of leaving the implementation, selection of technologies like IAM to the IT department. The IT department has been very seriously involved in these initiatives. And then there are the ones who are taking the lead from their side in terms of determining the directions for identity and access management. We know all this. More is happening. Almost no day goes when somebody is not talking about the cybersecurity scenario, and that makes your job difficult in the sense that on one side, you have the IT department, which has want to take its own course, and on the other side, you've got the board, which is not perhaps listening to you as much today. Even though you do have, they generally have the understanding that it's important to invest in security, but I do keep on hearing from CISOs and the CTOs that the board says, you have managed for so many years, why not for a couple of years more? So budgets are not coming, your issues are increasing, you know as CISOs the best in terms of what's happening. So it's a bit of a dilemma at this point in time, and you have to cross that chasm. Coming to IAM, what comes to my mind being in this area for a long time is that this is a technology which is like this story. If I ask 20 people, and in the morning we were talking in a round table with about 16 CISOs, and I could see the same thing, that everybody has got a different perspective of what is IAM. It varies right from the two-factor authentication up to the complexities and the complex of the entire IAM. So there is a lot of misunderstanding on that, and I'm going to kind of clarify that to some extent. One thing remains, that the importance of identity and access management goes beyond all boundaries of infrastructure, security, and risk. Identity, as Gartner says today, it's a very important publication, it says that if you want to maximize cybersecurity effectiveness in today's world, you got to use the architecture or the philosophy of identity-first security, which puts identity and access management right at the center of all the cybersecurity that you're planning to implement. It's simple to understand because if you look at any other cybersecurity technology, that they are at a certain layer. They could be at the infrastructure layer or the database or the application or network layer, but this is one technology which goes right across all the layers and all the users, all the management in an organization, and that's why it's important and that's why it's complex as well. These are the key findings of Gartner in that fairly important article, talking about, first of all, as to why, what has changed in the whole paradigm. Obviously, it's the cloud, digital supply chains, and remote access. They talk about these three being the major areas of change. And then about the IAM policies that exist in every organization, whether you do it manually or you do it through a system, the requirement is static policies don't hold anymore. You need to have them in a continuous and context-aware basis. And finally, compliance, which we all know. Gartner warns that you may become compliant, but you may not be secure, because you may get all the check boxes ticked, but the very next day when your auditor goes, you may become non-compliant again. Fortunately for us, he'll come back only after a year, but meanwhile, you're not secure. That brings me to what is the latest in IAM today. And I'm going to show you again one of the Gartner charts. They're the most acceptable analysts in the industry, so I use them. These are the three major pillars of identity and access management today. You have the identity governance and administration, which in itself comprises of two parts, identity governance and identity administration. Then you have the access management, and then you have what is called privileged access management. We have modified this to call privileged identity and access management. I'll talk about that in a moment. And these three come from three different sets of vendors, or even if it's the same vendor, it comes from three different acquisitions. You can look at the larger of the vendors, and you'll find that they come from different areas. And this is Gartner's recommendation. What they say is that you need to have this covered in at least these many modules should be inside one single IAM product today. This is the minimum requirement, and if a vendor's product is in line with it, it's called converged IAM. Gartner says that by 2025, next year, 70% of the new implementations are going to be of the converged type. And unfortunately, there are not many vendors who have got converged IAM today. Gartner talks about 4, we being on top. Interesting part is that what Gartner recommends is only a light IAM solution. And that does not cover the requirements of most of the enterprises. So we innovated, we are known for innovation, we innovated and we have come out with deep converged IAM. So if you look at the orange box, this is what we have already got ready and working for a couple of years. And this contains almost everything, but you don't have to buy everything. You can go for as you like. In fact, inside a box also, you can decide to just go for 1 or 2 elements. That brings me to implementing IAM. There are 4 factors which are very important. Convergence, you should look for that, is becoming a critical focus. Retain the existing investment. You don't have to throw anything away. We believe that you should not be throwing anything. And then go through a different approach. You have to drop the approach of looking at, oh, I'm going to do now access management. I have done privileged access management. That's a technology approach. That's not a solutions and risk mitigation approach. We have got some very interesting things innovated, like for example, PIGA, our own trademark now, which is called Privileged Identity and Access Management. The point is that 60% to 70% of your risk lies only with about 5 to 10% of the users. So implementing IAM for 100% of the population, module-wise, just doesn't make sense. You can begin with this, which will cost you maybe 10 to 20% of the total investment. Cover your major risks first. Second is methodology. Prioritize infrastructure and application privileged users. So this is, the whole definition of privileged users is changing. No more only the users who take care of infrastructure are privileged users. People who are having access to very critical risks or critical accesses, critical entitlements within applications are also privileged users. So cover all of them together. Emphasize governance over administration. This is very important for many of you. So administration should not be perhaps focused for at least the regulated entities. Adopt an incremental approach and engage key stakeholders. One of the biggest failures that happen in this is because of the key stakeholders not being present. Support, very important. You have to have support from vendors. This is not a technology where somebody sells and walks away. He has to be involved in your journey. Collaborate on planning and implementation. Planning should be taking a much longer time than implementation, if you really ask me. And ensure the regulatory compliance. Look for the support vendor who also deals with the compliance. How cross-identity can help? We've been there for 23 years, as I said, 7 years in the product. We are one of the recognized leaders. We are the only company out of India which is recognized and is a leader in all the different analysts in the world. We have pioneered some new domains, like I said, PIGA, and we are the world's most comprehensive identity and access management platform. Our DNA is an important thing. I would say if you can, walk to our stall and pick up a brochure there on our DNA, which is very, very unique. We are not in business just for profit. We are in the business for making you secure. We believe the cybersecurity domain puts a big responsibility on people like us. It's not about just making profits. And we have been investing a lot in Indian compliances, regulatory compliances in the last 1 to 1.5 years. Here's this team that is here. We've got the top management team right here that shows our commitment to the CISO fraternity. And all these people are available. Talk to them. We would love to talk to you one-on-one, not here perhaps, but beyond this, because if you want to really have a serious journey in this domain, we can talk, and we can talk about not going the usual way of implementing IAM, but through the way where you minimize your risk with minimum of investments. Thank you so much for your listening.